last week's UFC pay-per-view, UFC 314, Volkanovski versus Lopez, was an absolute banger from top to bottom. We're going to be going through each winner, some of the losers, and giving my take on who the next matchups should be for those specific fighters. So let's get straight into it, starting with big man Volk getting the title back. After getting knocked out 2 times in a row. A lot of people doubted him, said he couldn't do it, but he stood up for himself. I think it's kind of obvious. I want to give him Movsar Evloev, so I think Evloev is deserving of the next title shot in this division. As we know, Ilia Topuria, the champ, or the previous champ, did move up to lightweight, so Volkanovski's the new champ. If we look at the UFC rankings, there's really nobody else. So you got Max Holloway at number 1. I have a gripe with these rankings too. I have a bone to pick with whoever made these featherweight rankings that just updated today. You got Max Holloway at number 1. He is pretty much fully committed to lightweight at this point. He shouldn't be in the featherweight rankings. If he is still fighting a featherweight, sure, give him the number 1 contender spot. But even if he is number 1 contender, what are they going to do? The 4th fight with Volk? I mean, he's going to be moving up to lightweight, so he's really not in contention or even any talks for the title shot at featherweight. Diego Lopez at number 2. We just saw him lose to Volk, so of course, I mean, it was a great fight. One of the best, honestly, featherweight title fights we've ever seen. Went the full 5 distance. You can call it a war. Great fight there, but I don't see any reason for an instant rematch for Diego. As we know, Ilia moved up, so I really don't know why he's in the rankings either. I guess he hasn't officially fought at lightweight, so you can't put him in the lightweight rankings, but it's kind of weird seeing him at number 3 and not champion. I guess tied for 4. I hate how they do that as well. Like just pick the number here. You have Yair and Evloev. I mean, in my opinion, Evloev should be the number 1 contender. Maybe you could put him at 2, considering he beat Diego, but Diego just fought for the belt. So I think you got to have Evloev and Diego Lopez at 1 and 2. But you have Evloev at pretty much 5. You have Yair Rodriguez ahead of him. What are we doing in there? I know Yair just got a 1 win. He's on a 1-fight win streak versus a Bellator tick in Pitbull, who didn't throw any punches whatsoever in that fight. And then he's talking in the post-fight interview how Hunter Campbell said he'd get a title shot if he won that fight. I mean, are you kidding me? What constitutes a title shot for Yair Rodriguez? A 1 win over a 37-year-old guy coming from Bellator? Yair was just on a 2-fight losing streak. How is he even above Evloev and potentially getting a title shot? I mean, what are we doing? That's got to be like rage bait or something. It's got to be Evloev. I mean, going down farther in the list, Alan Ortega, they're not in the talks for a title shot. It's got to be Evloev. He's 9-0 in the UFC. He's 19-0 in his career. He's got a really nice, last 4 opponents in Dan Ige, a really nice win to have on your resume. Unfinished Diego Lopez. I know it was Diego's debut, but guy just fought for the belt, went toe-to-toe with Volkanovski. A really good win to have on your resume. Arnold Allen, another great win. Arnold Allen is 20-3, very well rounded. And now Aljamain Sterling, who was he? 23-4, 24-4, past champ of the bantamweight division. Outstanding 4-fight win streak here. Yes, he doesn't have any finishes. If he did have finishes, he would have gotten a title shot a long time ago. So I think he's due for one. I think it's chance finally with Max leaving the division, kind of the gatekeeper of the top 5. The champion, Ilia, leaving the division. I think it's Movsar's time, to be honest. So we're going to give Movsar the next title shot, the next opponent for Volkanovski. For Diego Lopez, the loser of the title fight, we have to do the Yair Rodriguez fight. Please, Dana White, UFC, Hunter, Mick, you have to get this right. Diego Lopez versus Yair Rodriguez. It's not that hard. These guys were mad beefing at the UFC press conference before the fight. I think the situation went something like in another promotion, you had Diego as champ, and you had a guy from Yair's camp as champ, and they kind of wanted to fight, but I think the guy from Yair's camp was ducking or something. Then this guy from Yair's camp, I think, assaulted one of the females at Diego's camp, and then Diego's camp jumped the guy from Yair's camp. It's just a whole big mess. So those guys were really getting into it, really getting heated at the press conference. And this is what we want. We want guys with a little bit of beef, a little bit of a feud that hypes up the fight. We saw with Gene Silva and Bryce Mitchell, it really hyped up the fight. And it would be to do the same thing with Yair Rodriguez and Diego Lopez. It would just be an even higher level fight and more stakes, to be honest, because the winner of that, you could potentially throw them into a title shot or number one contenders fight. Both guys in the Mexico region, at least training there. Very, very nice striking fight, in my opinion. But, both of these guys have gone to the ground and have gotten submitted and given out submissions. So, that would be a sick fight to see. And that's the only option I see is for Yair Rodriguez to fight Diego Lopez. These guys have to get it right, please. I know it's very hit and miss with the matchmaking in the UFC, but this is one that is just obvious, in my opinion. Next up, Paddy Pimblett, an outstanding performance versus Michael Chandler. He called out Charles Dustin and Justin, not Arman, the little, what do you call him? I don't know. He doesn't like Arman. He's beefing with Arman. Who cares about that? They showed Gaethje in the crowd when he was calling him out. Gaethje looked absolutely zoned out, probably high on something. Either way, I want to give Paddy Gaethje. That's a great fight. Yes, it's a little bit of a fast track. This was essentially Paddy's first ranked win. Bobby Green might have been ranked 15th when he fought him, but Bobby Green is not ranked caliber. And we saw them. He's been knocked out cold various times in the last 2 years. So even though he's basically fought and Michael Chandler isn't a great opponent, but he's only fought in one opponent, and it's an aging, washed Michael Chandler at this point. Probably the worst version, definitely the worst version of Michael Chandler we've ever seen. But I wouldn't be surprised if they gave him Justin Gaethje, gave him a top 5 guy, and I like it as well. It's kind of a fast track, but Paddy Pimblett is the next breed at lightweight. He just KO'd Michael Chandler, who's kind of that, or definitely in that old guard with that group of Gaethje and Poirier and Oliveira and Chandler. So he got through Michael Chandler. If he gets through Gaethje, this guy is truly the new breed at lightweight, and especially if he finishes Gaethje, man. And with Gaethje coming off a win as well, you can throw that winner into a title shot as well. So very big implications for the lightweight future in that fight. And both guys have high finish rates. Going to be an absolute banger. Talk about high finish rates. Chandler, I want him to take on the winner of Yoel Alvarez versus Benoit Saint-Denis. That fight should be absolutely sick. That's happening in Montreal, UFC 315. So it's coming up pretty soon. It should be on similar schedules there. Yoel Alvarez, I think he's got a one decision win. He's got, I think, 22 wins. Benoit Saint-Denis, 100% finish rate. These guys, that fight ain't going the distance, that's for damn sure. Both those guys are around 10 to 15 in the lightweight division, and you can't give Michael Chandler another top 10 guy, even a top 15 guy. Like, I wouldn't mind giving him an unranked guy at this point. Like, he kind of sucks. He really does. Like, he's not that good. So 10 to 15, I think Benoit's number 12, Yoel's number 15. The winner of that fights Michael Chandler in an absolute banger. It ain't going the distance. Like, a lot of these lightweight bangers aren't going the distance. So definitely even a further step down from Paddy Pimblett for Michael Chandler. But, Benoit / Yoel Alvarez are getting rewarded with a pretty big name in the lightweight division if they pull out a win there. Next up, Patricio Pitbull. Not a good performance. Lackluster versus Yair Rodriguez. Doesn't even win any of the 3 rounds, in my opinion. I want him to fight Dan Ige. I would still give him a ranked guy just because he does have the name value, and because of his accomplishments in Bellator. It'd be kind of weird to see them give him an unranked guy, to be honest, but because Dan Ige is number 15, I think he's moved to number 14 now after that Woodson win. he's a guy that'll take on anybody, especially, we saw with the Diego Lopez 1 day notice fight, not even a day. Dan Ige will take on anybody, anywhere. I feel like this will be a very similar stylistic matchup. Both these guys are strikers, shorter for the division, a little bit more thicker, and just kind of just want to strike with you and do have some nice pop in their hands. Don't really look to take it to the ground that often. So a very similar stylistic matchup. And these guys both just fought on the same card, so they're going to be on great schedules for each other, very similar timetables. So there's a lot of guys to give Pitbull, but I think Dan Ige is kind of an obvious opponent in my opinion. Dom Reyes, 3-fight win streak, all knockouts, just got one of the biggest wins of his life since the John Jones win, right? I want him to take on Rakic. He's getting a little bit old. He's got the resurgence in his career. I don't want, it's not up to my discretion, obviously. I'm not Dana White in the war room, but I wouldn't want to give Dominic Reyes, prospect after prospect on this title run, you could call it. We kind of want to fast track him a little bit. So I want to give him Alexander Rakic. Alexander Rakic is a top 5 guy. Yes, he hasn't really won too much in the past few years, but he was coming off an injury, came back versus Ankalaev and went to a very close decision. It was quite boring, not a lot of output, but Rakic has fought a bunch of the elite fighters in the division: Blachowicz, Ozdemir, Ankalaev. So yeah, I'd love to give Dom Reyes a Rakic matchup. I was considering the Yair Prochazka one, but I honestly, that might be a little bit too much of a bump up. Yair's the number 1 contender. He arguably deserves the title shot. Plus, I don't want to see that rematch. I don't want to see another rematch for Dom Reyes. So, like Blachowicz, I'm kind of ruling out, and Yair Prochazka, I'm kind of ruling out, and Rakic is right in the middle of them. Fresh matchup, and a lot of power between these two. This will be sick. If Dom Reyes pulls this off, you could throw him into a title shot. Oh, that'll be exciting. I'm so hyped for Dominic Reyes' future at this point. Off of these 3 straight wins, he's only going to need 1 or 2 more. He said it himself in the post-fight interview. He's going to need only 1 or 2 more to get that title shot. And if he can finally win the belt after that John Jones robbery, I mean, that'll be one of the best stories in MMA history, to be honest. So, especially after being knocked out 3 times in a row brutally. We thought his career was completely over, and now he's won 3 in a row. And if he even gets the title shot, that'll be just absolute cinema. Moving on, the loser of that fight gets knocked out versus Dom Reyes. That is Nikita Krylov. Gets knocked out off a jab. I want him to fight Azamat Murzakanov. This fight was already made. It was booked, and then it was canceled. So I think Murzakanov pulled out. That was supposed to happen, I think, earlier this year or later last year, something like that. That's a common thing for me to want to see is, if a fight is canceled and the opponents still haven't fought yet, then I know Krylov eventually fought Dom Reyes, so coming off a loss, that's a little bit better because Murzakanov is 10-15 in the division, so he should be fighting a little bit down anyway. So Murzakanov is the perfect opponent for Krylov. Like I said, this fight was already booked, so we know the matchmakers like this fight. I don't see why we shouldn't be booking this pretty soon. Krylov has to heal up from his KO, but yeah, this should be a good fight. Murzakanov honestly never fights all that often. Seems like he fights once a year, maybe twice a year if we're lucky. He's an undefeated prospect in the light heavyweight division, and Nikita Krylov is very, very good. I mean, I know he just got knocked out off a jab, but hopefully we can see him come back and take Murzakanov's O potentially. Next fight, Gene Silva. Very impressive performance versus Bryce Mitchell. Gets the submission, beating him on the feet, and beat the grappler on the ground game as well. I want to give him Lerone Murphy. It's kind of interesting to think about who they're going to give him next, because you don't want to give him too much of a bump up the rankings and give him like a top 5 guy. Like Arnold Allen seems a little bit too far up for me. But as they say, if these guys are getting finishes, if you're on a finish streak, Dana is in love with you, and he will fast track you to the belt as quickly as he can. But you have guys like Evloev and even Ankalaev. Ankalaev still gets finishes, but Evloev's 9-0. I mean, there's not a lot of 9-0 guys in the UFC that haven't gotten the title shot yet. I mean, that's pretty wild. So we see with Prates as well. He's 4-0 in the UFC, and he's already fighting Ian Gary. And I don't know how many fights it'll take him to get that title shot, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me if Prates got a title shot after he potentially beats Ian Gary. So I want to give Gene Silva, all that to say, I want to give Gene Silva Lerone Murphy. I don't really like doing prospect versus prospect, but at this point, Lerone Murphy, is he really a prospect? He's still undefeated for his career, so that's a great look. He's coming off the best win of his career over Josh Emmett. Not the best looking, but certainly the best opponent. And I think my thinking with this is the winner of this fight is going to have some major hype on him. I know Lerone Murphy isn't really a finisher, but he just beat Josh Emmett. Before that fight, he beat Dan Ige, so he's gotten some nice wins on his resume. And like I said, the winner of this fight, with obviously Gene Silva's hype that he already has, and Lerone Murphy stacking up some really nice ranked wins, the winner of this fight is going to have a ton of hype. So this is kind of the few circumstances where I'm all for the prospect versus prospect in this scenario. Next up, going over the last 5 fights, we got Bryce Mitchell. Takes a pretty tough loss versus Gene Silva. Gets a taste of his own medicine, getting submitted by the striker. Pretty crazy to see. I didn't think he would get submitted, but I'm sure Gene Silva was practicing those submission attempts off of the takedown from Bryce Mitchell. Of course, they would expect Bryce Mitchell to shoot takedowns, and they definitely came with that game plan to latch up the ninja choke or the guillotine when the Bryce Mitchell's head was on the outside of his hip. So good win by Gene Silva. Bryce Mitchell's going to have to come back, improve his striking, to be honest. I wanted them to give him Chepe Mariscal. If you guys don't know who Chepe is, this guy's an absolute dog. He's undefeated in the UFC right now. Let's take a look at his resume here. He's undefeated in the UFC, and he has a ton of UFC competition that he fought outside the UFC in things like LFA. So he actually already fought Bryce Mitchell for the belt in V3 fights, obviously not the UFC, a very small promotion, and he lost to Bryce Mitchell. So you could definitely make some headlines there. You can make some storylines there of, they already fought in another promotion for the belt. There could be some animosity, so that's what I was thinking as well with this fight. So if you didn't know, now you know. This guy also fought Pat Sabatini, who just got an impressive win over Joanderson Brito last week. He beat Yusuf Zalal by unanimous decision. He's currently ranked in the featherweight division, making a run. He fought Joanderson Brito, who I just mentioned. He did get knocked out, but also got knocked out by Steve Garcia. He's a UFC fighter on the run on a knockout streak, as it is as well in the UFC. So, Bryce Mitchell, Steve Garcia, Joanderson Brito, Yusuf Zalal, Pat Sabatini, half these guys are on our 4+ fight win streaks. And this is all before the UFC. Now getting into the UFC, he's 5-0. Trevor Peek, not a bad win. Jack Jenkins, solid win. Morgan Charrier, I know he just kind of got fraud checked by Nathaniel Wood, but that's a nice win to have on your resume. Damon Jackson, Ricardo Ramos, that was a stupid fight. I'm not sure what the matchmakers are thinking there, but 5-0 is 5-0 with some decent names on the resume. I think you got to give him. I would like a ranked guy next, but I think Bryce Mitchell's the perfect matchup for him. He's right outside the rankings, probably number 16 or 17 in the world at featherweight, and they already fought before, so there's going to be a little bit of a storyline there, and I think this is a good stylistic matchup too, because you have Chepe. If you don't know anything about him, he's got great cardio, he's got great pressure, he's an absolute dog. He will make the fight dirty, make the fight scrappy. and kind of just bully you, to be honest. So I think that's a good style, or at least an entertaining style to fight Bryce Mitchell, who's also a grappler, looking to get to the ground with you as well. So I might even have to take Chepe in that fight. I probably would, to be honest. So, Chepe's a really exciting fighter. I think Bryce Mitchell's the perfect spot in the rankings, along with the rematch aspect. So I think that's a great fight for them. Sean Woodson gets a bad stoppage loss over Dan Ige. I want him to fight Gabriel Santos, another guy that you guys might not know or heard about. He got a really nice win over Jack Jenkins at UFC 312 in Australia. Not a ton of UFC fights. He's only 2-2 in the UFC. But as you can see, he's got no other losses on his resume besides that. He beat Elvis Brenner outside of the UFC, another absolute dog, a finisher, a really, really tough out. Elvis Brenner is also in the UFC. As you can see, he goes to a split decision with Lerone Murphy in his debut. You can't do much better than that in your debut, you know what I mean? Obviously, it depends on the competition, but Lerone Murphy in your debut goes to a very close fight. Don't mind that at all. Gets knocked out by David Onama, who is favored over Giga Chikadze in his next fight for his first ranked opponent. So Onama's moving up the rankings as well. Two good names to have on your resume, albeit they are losses. Those are good losses, in my opinion. Beats Yija, no comment on that one. And submits Jack Jenkins. That was a pretty crazy fight. I would recommend watching that fight back too. Jenkins head kicks him, hurts him, and then puts him in a triangle. Somehow survives. And then I think, round 2, he dominates Jack on the ground, hurts him. Round 3, gets Jack to the ground and submits him. So, besides the first round, dominant of Jack Jenkins, who's a really nice UFC fighter, pretty skillful, great leg kicks, some nice striking, well-rounded. I really liked that performance, so that's what made me think of the opponent to give Sean Woodson. Because Sean Woodson, it's all about where these guys are on the rankings. Sean Woodson got the shot at a ranked guy. It didn't work out for him, so he's kind of sitting at that 20 to 25 range in the division, and I think Gabriel Santos would probably beat Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson's a really, really weird guy to fight, and he's kind of got the decision game locked down, but it doesn't seem like he's quite at the top 15 level yet, and I think Gabriel Santos is a really, really good fighter. Some of you guys may never have heard of him, and like I said, he doesn't have a ton of UFC fights, a ton of exposure to the public eye, but this guy, I'm high on this guy, so I would like to see him fight Sean Woodson as well. Kind of similar timetables as well, so that's always a good thing to look for. Next up, Chase Hooper. We have to give him somebody that's under the age of 50 years old. That's not a fossil. And somebody remotely close to the rankings at this point. I don't know why Dana refuses to do that. Even Chase Hooper said, enough with these veterans that are out of the retirement home. So I want to give him Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola is a weird guy right now in the division. He's coming off of back-to-back losses. At one point, he was on a knockout streak. He had just cracked Drew Dober's chin. He was in the rankings. Life was looking good for Matt Frevola. But since then, gets knocked out by Benoit Saint-Denis. No shame in that. Benoit is one of the best mixed martial artists probably in the history of the world. So no shame in that. And then he gets knocked out by Fares Siam. That fight was around a pick 'em, I think. And it gets knocked out with a knee in the clinch. So back-to-back knockout losses. Not a great record at 11-4-1 for Frevola. But he's a pretty young guy, and he's close enough to the rankings. He's not in the rankings, but it's a good fight for Chase Hooper to prepare him for the rankings. And if he runs through Matt Frevola, which I could see him utilizing his grappling and doing just that, there's going to be a lot more hype on him than if he beats Jim Miller or Clay Guida like he has. It's not really improving the hype. I mean, I don't know how I have to explain this to Dana and the matchmakers. That's not improving his hype. I don't know if you're building up Chase Hooper, you're trying to get him some wins, kind of like Raul Rosas. He is pretty young though, so I will give him that, but I mean, Matt Frevola is not that tough a matchup. He's a nice striker. He's got some good power, but for a grappler like Chase Hooper, I don't think it'll be that much of a struggle for Chase Hooper to win that fight. So a good matchup for Chase there. Moving on to Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, gets the first round knockout over Cedric Dumas. Before that fight, he was off of 3 straight losses, so desperately needed that win. He got the win. I'm happy for him. And the guy I want to give him is CLD Christian Leroy Duncan. This guy is a pretty hyped up prospect, especially with him being English, at least in the England region. He's very hyped up. He's a striker. He's got great strikes. Obviously, spinning attacks, spinning heel kicks, you name it. He just got a really dominant win over a Russian guy who's making his debut on short notice on the England Fight Night, Edwards Brady. I think he's 2-2 in the UFC, 3-2 in the UFC. So he's not really near the rankings, but Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, you could say he's a prospect. I think that tag is kind of gone because of how many fights he has in the UFC. There's no real way to define a prospect, but I think this would be a really good stylistic matchup. Both these guys are going to stay on the feet, and when Mikhail Oleksiejczuk stands on the feet and CLD stands on the feet, it's going to be a really entertaining fight. So when these guys fight each other, it's going to be a sick Muay Thai kickboxing battle. And honestly, I don't know who I would pick because both these guys have potential to finish their opponent and in a flashy way as well. So I just think it's going to be an entertaining fight, especially striker versus striker. Give me that for the next matchup for Mikhail. And the last one we'll be going over, Marco Tulio gets a dominant win over Tresean Gore, using his striking. Looked like a fighting nerd out there. Looked like Gene Silva in middleweight form. Let's give him Brad Tavares. Brad Tavares just fought recently. He beat GM3 in a pretty, lackluster fight. I mean, that's what you expected, though, at 29-28. Brad Tavares is a very well-known name. He's fought literally the best of the best. He's fought Drix Du Plessis. He's fought Derek Brunson. He's fought Israel Adesanya. He's fought everyone. I think it's a good jump up to how hyped up he is right now because he's 2-0 in the UFC, both by knockout. This guy's a lot of hype on him right now. So I think Brad Tavares is the right amount of bump up in competition. I usually like to say, he's not near the rankings, but Tulio shouldn't be fighting a ranked guy. But he has a well-known enough name to where it really doesn't matter. This is still a guy that everybody knows in Brad Tavares. He's a tough guy to get out there, but he has been KO'd a few times, leaving a path for Marco Tulio. I do think Marco Tulio would win this fight pretty handily as well. Maybe the experience of old Brad Tavares could get him in trouble, but I think Tulio should get this one done, and it's a good name for his resume to build him up as a prospect and get him one step closer to the rankings because this guy really does look exciting in this middleweight division. But that'll do it for this video. The matchups to make after UFC 314. Please comment down below what you think the next matchup should be. If you think Evloev should be getting the title shot, if you liked Yair versus Diego Lopez, especially who do you think they'll give Paddy Pimblett, stuff like that. Guys in the top 10, those are the most important fights. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, share this with your mom and your nan and even your dog. Please get me 1 million subscribers by the end of this week, guys. Appreciate it.